Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about 7 cards you should be thinking about side decking going into the February 2020 format. Now, with Mercenary Tau and with TN Returning Fire hitting the ban list come the official release of set 9, which is actually today, you guys are probably going to need a few pointers into what to side deck now that such generic side deck cards like TN and like Tau are going away. So today, in today's video, we're talking about exactly that. Guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. If you guys want to support the channel, lots of ways you can do that. Number 1, the Patreon down below, lots of competitive content for you if you're trying to get your game up. Number 2, if you want to buy any cards you see in today's video, you can help the channel out a lot by buying these cards using my links to either TCG Player or Bearded Collectibles down below. And finally, guys, we have the Crosswell TCG merch store. All that stuff looks super dope, and it really helps the channel out a lot. With that being said, we're getting right into this video. So, the first card we're talking about, Son Goku in Close Quarters. This card was pretty much unplayable when it first came out, and a lot of people talked about its future applications. Well, those applications are pretty much here. So it's a 2-drop 15k green battle card. It has a 2 energy combo cost for a 5k combo, which seems pretty bad at first, but the auto makes up for it. When you play or combo with this card, if there is a multicolor card in your energy, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with barrier, an energy cost of 3 or less, ignoring barrier, and KO it. So here's the thing with this card. Even though it's green, it's pretty much generic as long as you're playing a multicolor deck. Kind of like Further Construction Champa, although that doesn't care if you're playing a multicolor deck, but it's a generic combo card in that sense. So you pop a barrier, it has to specifically have barrier, and it has to be 3 or less, and you KO it. So the number one thing this is really, really good against is Invoker. The 3-drop Vegeta that they play with barrier and deflect. That's their main invoker. They want to drop that on the board on turn 3, either Surge Awaken or use a Beerus super combo to untap an energy on your turn, and then use their spells from there. Son Goku in Close Quarters answers their 3 energy play for 2 energy. So it's actually really, really good, even if you're going second. So this is a great answer to U7, a card you're definitely going to consider in your sideboard if you have trouble beating U7. And that's really cool because as the game gets older and progresses, we're really seeing side decks become a lot more important, and older cards become a lot more relevant in the side deck, as we'll see throughout this video. But other applications of this card, it's pretty good against Jiren. Jiren does spam a lot of little barriers, although none of them are as impactful as the U7 Vegeta Invoker, but they do all add up to Jiren's successor plays. So if you want to interrupt their successor plays, using this card against them is not too bad. You can also play this card and get the effect. So if you are in like green red or some type of green multicolor like blue green, you can actually play this for a 15k body, put pressure on, and still get the effect. So that's a pretty cool way to use this card. Just want to make sure I mention that. With that being said, we're moving on to Dark Power Black Mass Sand, a card that's been great across many formats. We did just lose TN and Mercenary Tau, like I mentioned. Those are pretty much the generic black staples that almost all side decks included. This card is probably going to see a giant rise because, again, it's a black generic card that is very splashable in pretty much any deck. So when you tackle this card, you can take a life and it gains plus 10,000 power. That's pretty cool for Self Awaken if your deck needs it, which actually is going to be really important for the matchup I'm going to mention this card for. Auto, when your opponent plays a battle card with 15,000 power or less using a non-keyword skill. So that's pretty much like Activate Main or Auto. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand and places them in the drop area. This card is going to be very important for going up against androids in set 9, particularly Cell. A lot of Cell's plays, their androids come out of the drop area via Activate Mains, and those abilities are used on 10k or less battle cards, so that will trigger Dark Power Black Mass Sand. Cell, I did a whole article about it, explaining my deck list, explaining the thought processes behind it, and the deck is a really good control deck, but at the end of the day, it does keep a lower hand size than other decks. So this discard will really start to add up, and against Cell, you're also going to want to use the Self-Awakening ability of this card in certain scenarios, because they do have the Super 17 9-drop successor. When that card comes into play, they crit you all the way down to 4 life. So whether you're at 8, 7, 5, or 6, you're critting all the way down to 4 life. Then it's a 30k crit in itself. When it attacks, they can rest 2 of your cards, that includes energy, and they draw a card. So it's almost like it's forcing you down to 3 life if you have no way to defend the swing after they crit you down to 4. So having the Dark Power Black Mass Sand for the Self Awaken, if your deck is lacking Self Awaken, is also really good. But this card's always been a coverall. It hits really random rogue matchups. Like off the top of my head, it hits Chain Zeno decks, even though we haven't seen one of those in a long time. It does hit Familial Bond strategies, which actually did pretty well at the Pro Play Tour Orlando, whether it's Pan, whether it's Broly Surge into Digging Deep Vegeta. Those are strategies that Dark Power Black Mass Sand is really good against. And once again, this is pretty good against Jiren because they do play very small U11s via non-keyword skills. Basically, the leader effect plays them for free, and that will trigger Dark Power Black Mass Sand. So in that sense, this is a very good coverall card. Next up, we're talking about Artificial Impact and Cease to Exist. So this is kind of like a coverall topic where each of these cards, every color got a type of card like this. So green got Artificial Impact, red got Cease to Exist, yellow got Justice Blast, blue got Barrier of Hope, and then black got the Majin Buu one that I can't remember the name of. But basically, what they all do is they all allow you to combo them for a 5k combo power with their activate battles. So they basically treat themselves as extra cards that don't clunk your hand, which is really, really cool. And on top of that, they're 3-drop kill spells that get around Barrier. Artificial Impact happens to KO a battle card ignoring Barrier if your leader is green, and then your opponent chooses a card in their hand and places it in the drop area. And then Cease to Exist only works if your leader is red, and then you will be able to choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards ignoring Barrier, give them minus 25,000 power. I think these are the 2 strongest ones. The black one's very good as well. It warps a battle card. Barrier of Hope is not so great because you put it back in their hand, but you do get to draw 2 out of it. Justice Blast is kind of specific. It requires the card to be in rest mode, but in yellow there are a lot of ways to tap Barrier, so that's not really too big of a deal. But anyways, just these cards with these bonus effects are really nice. I mean, Cease to Exist, pay 3, get rid of either 2 7-drops of Masu's or 2 Piccolo assimilated abilities. That's huge, huge value. And then in green, you might already be playing a hand control strategy like Android 13 or like Cell or like Android 20, and then having the ability to remove a barrier and then pick a card out of your opponent's hand, that just adds up to really high value across the game. These cards are awesome. Get a play set of these no matter what. You might change the color of your leader at some point down the line. Even if you've been playing, I don't know, Yellow Broly your entire Dragon Ball Super career, you might end up playing a different leader next set or in the future. So make sure you have a play set of these cards for each of the colors. They're very, very good staples and great side deck options going forward. Next up, we're talking about Emperor's Death Beam. So this card, sorry it's so blurry in advance, I couldn't find a good scan of it. But anyways, Emperor's Death Beam is a multicolor extra card, 3-drop, 2 red, 1 blue, and it is an Invoker archetype extra card, but it's actually generic to red blue, and it's actually a really, really good card for red blue. So it's activate main / battle, so you get the flexibility there. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier and give it minus 30,000 power for the duration of the turn. So let's say you were playing red blue, you have the option between Cease to Exist, which like I said before can KO up to 2 battle cards. Well, it wouldn't technically be KOing, but you can technically remove 2 battle cards and give them minus 25,000 power. But if the format has a lot of 30k beaters and you want to catch your opponent off guard with a powerful activate battle, when they attack with their 30k, you activate battle, give it minus 30k, basically get rid of the problem, and you baited them into investing resources into that. So that could be anything as big as a secret rare, you drop it down to 10k, and then it's probably just not even gonna do damage to you at that point. Or it could be something, I want to say Gogeta 7, but that rips your hand apart, so that's not a good example. But any 30k barrier that your opponent thinks is a safe threat to go in with, Emperor's Death Beam is a great way to get rid of that card. So definitely a side deck option for red blue in particular. Next up, we're talking about mokuba. So no matter what blue variant you're playing, it could be mono blue, it could be blue green, it could be blue yellow, blue red, whatever the case is, mokuba seems like a really, really good card going into next format. One of the #1 things I think this is actually gonna be really, really good against is Black Buu. Buu specifically wants to attack you with all the different parts of the Buu chain. They're gonna attack with their 2-drop 15k, then they're gonna want to rank up into all their higher Buus. If you mokuba them at any point, you pretty much stop their Buu chain in its tracks for 2 turns, and that's really, really good. They have to have another way to restart the chain. They can have it with a Babidi, or they can have it with the Mimicry extra card, but you're basically forcing them to use those resources, and you're stopping like probably 4 to 5 attacks with 1 card and 2 energy. So mokuba in my book is really, really strong, and tons of other applications as well. You can hit anything in the Cell archetype. You can hit the Cell SCR too, which is incredibly powerful. A lot of people are going to drop the Cell SCR before they actually get the ability to pick at your hand with it. They're just going to drop it on like a random turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 when they think they can kill you with the quad strike, and if you mokuba it, you're looking to be in pretty good shape. Next up, Haru Haru Attacker Majin. This card picks up a lot of value for a few reasons. I mean, firstly, as we keep mentioning, Tien and Tao are gone, so black extra cards that are black cards that are generic pick up a lot of value. And with the dawn of the multicolor leader format, pretty much every leader is affected by Haru Haru. Whether your leader is blue yellow, it's affected by Haru Haru. Red green, affected by Haru Haru. Blue green Piccolo, affected by Haru Haru. Red green Broly Surge. What else? We have the green yellow Cell deck. So those are just a few, and Jiren as well. Those are just a few that are deeply affected by Haru. So going with that wide board spam with Haru, getting all the energy on tap is going to be really, really strong going forward as long as multicolor leaders are a thing. And it's actually really, really good against Cell as well, because in the early turns, Cell is going to tap out a lot to make their successor plays. So taking advantage of that, knowing they won't really have the Vegeta the Cruel available or the Predator Strike available, that's going to be really, really powerful in the set 9 format. And finally, guys, I did an entire video about it earlier this week, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here. Make sure you go watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. But Crusher Ball, if you're playing some type of yellow, whether it's blue yellow, green yellow, red yellow, whatever, make sure your side deck includes Crusher Ball if you don't have access to Frost Deadly Poison. And in that video that I just mentioned, I even give you good reasons to play Crusher Ball over Frost Deadly Poison if you want to go check that out. I think it's a really good video with a lot of good points. With that being said, guys, these are the cards that I think you can side deck going into the next format that are going to give you a lot of success. Let me know in the comments below what you think, because there are a ton of good side deck cards to side deck going into the next format. So let me know what you think about what cards are worth side decking going into the next format in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.